Boyfriend's family ambushed me and demanded I shave my head for his sister with cancer, but I am a model and my hair is my career, so I organized a photo shoot and bought her a wig instead, but nothing I did was ever good enough for them. Hi relationships, I'll try to keep this short and blunt. Please don't judge before you've read the entire thing. I promise I'm not as awful as I sound in the title. I've been with Matthew for 3 years now, and we have a perfect relationship. I know everyone says that, but it really is true. I want to spend the rest of my life with him. I've only met his family a few times because they live pretty far away and my boyfriend had a huge falling out with his father a couple of years ago. They've since patched things up, but it's still not the same as it was. Matthew is not particularly close to his sister because she's 12 years younger than him and he doesn't see her that often. Of course he still loves and adores her, but they're not a very close family. Jessica has cancer and as a result has lost all of her hair. Matthew was devastated, obviously, and has been going to visit her more often. I have only seen her a few times since, because of work commitments. I have been down twice alone, without Matthew, to visit her in hospital. She's a lovely young girl and I'm devastated for her and their family. Jessica is home at the moment and Matthew's mum called last Friday and asked if we could go over there. Upon arrival, Matthew's mum whipped out a pair of scissors and shavers and said that the whole family was shaving their heads for Jessica. My job is modeling. I have very thick, natural auburn hair that reaches my waist. It's one of the reasons that I'm fairly successful. It's one of the reasons I can afford to pay the bills. I couldn't model without my hair. So I respectfully and politely declined, telling them that it would be detrimental to my career. I don't have 2 jobs, I don't have a backup, this is my job. It's my moneymaker. If I couldn't model, I don't know what I would do. Matthew immediately got angry, insisting that this is more important, and while I agree that sentimentally and emotionally this is far more important, I cannot afford to lose my hair. I have to think logically about this, otherwise I won't have a roof over my head. Matthew's mum was very upset, and proceeded to tell Jessica that I wouldn't shave my hair because I'm vain. I apologized to Jessica and explained my reasoning, and I went home. I have barely spoken to Matthew since it happened as he says he needs space to consider if he wants to be in this relationship. I told him that I would do anything other than shave my head. I'll do a charity run, I'll raise tons of money, whatever I can possibly do, instead of shaving my head, but he won't listen. All he says is, how can you put your looks and vanity over my cancer-ridden sister? Did I do the wrong thing? Edit 1. A few people have asked, so I'll copy-paste this from one of my replies. Matthew told me that Jessica is very upset and has told all of their family repeatedly that she hates me for having long hair and refusing to shave it for her. She's only 13 years old though. I have a feeling that the family are perhaps poisoning her view, and of course she's going to be having a difficult time as it is. I can't hold any grudges against a young girl being in such an awful situation. Edit 2. I'm completely overwhelmed by the support here, so thank you a lot. I have read every comment and most of them are very helpful and make me feel a lot better. I am going to give it another few days and then I am going to speak with Matthew and his mom and Jessica. I'll be sure to post an update soon. Thank you again. Edit 3. Gosh, I hate threads with a ton of updates when there's no real update, but I feel the need to defend Matthew's family a little. They're not crazy people. They've always been absolutely lovely and kind and welcoming towards me. They were a normal, happy family before this happened. Their youngest member of the family, the innocent, sweet, vulnerable girl, is dying and there's nothing they can do about it other than try to make her happy. Of course their view is clouded, of course they're not being rational. Matthew's mom has quit her job to spend more time with Jessica. They've spent every penny they have on gifts for her. I don't think they're crazy or bad people. They're in a world of hell and the only thing that makes it better is putting a smile on Jessica's face, and me shaving my head would have done that. If they don't come to terms with it and start thinking clearly soon, then I will agree with everyone and I will call them crazy and run for the hills, but at the moment, I'm trying to be as supportive as I can to my boyfriend and his family whose hearts are all broken. Put yourselves in their shoes. Update 1. Sorry it's taken a while for me to update. I've been really busy and didn't want to post until it was resolved. I got so many helpful and positive comments on my last post, so thank you so much for that. I kept a lot of the comments in mind when I spoke to Matthew and his family. Matthew contacted me saying that he had seen my Reddit thread, I'm not sure how. He said that he was really sorry and that a lot of the commenters were right. He said that his view was clouded and he wasn't thinking properly. We spoke for hours and I forgave him. I told him that I accepted his apology and that in the future, if there's a crisis, he has to try to be calmer and more reasonable. He agreed, and he's also agreed that him and his mum need some kind of counseling because they're obviously really struggling. So that was out of the way. We are still taking it slow. He wanted to speak to his family on behalf of me, but I requested that it was me that spoke to them, so I went over there and spoke to his mom and his auntie whilst Jessica wasn't home. I wore my hair plaited under a hat out of respect, thank you to the Redditor who suggested that. As soon as I arrived, his mom, Kat, told me that she didn't want to argue, and that she didn't feel she needed to hear my explanation. She said in almost these words, "This isn't something that I can be rational about, I hope you can understand that. My world revolves around that girl and I just want to make her happy. I'm sorry I expected too much from you, but I just want to let this go now. You're obviously a wonderful girlfriend to Matthew and I hope that you can be a part of our family, but until Jessica is better I'd prefer it if you could not be around her. I'm sorry if that's rude but she's really self-conscious about her appearance and she hates being around such a young, healthy, beautiful girl with a full head of hair." I still wanted to explain my side of the story but she kinda cut me off a bit and pretty much said yeah I'm being ridiculous and I don't want to listen to reason because all I care about is seeing a smile on Jessica's face, so I just apologized for upsetting Jessica, accepted Kat's apology and left. It wasn't really the discussion I'd hoped to have but it was better than nothing. I also spoke to my agency about the situation and asked how they would feel about me cutting my hair. I knew they'd say no, but I wanted to ask anyway. They did say no, but said that they would like to help in some way. I pulled a few strings, and managed to arrange a photoshoot for myself, Jessica and my niece, actually a friend's daughter but she calls me auntie. Matthew has told me before that Jessica is struggling to maintain friendships because she's constantly in and out of the hospital, and most of her friends are a bit wary of being around now. My niece is only a year younger than her and I think they'd get along so I thought it would be really nice and helpful for Jessica. I bought her a wig, similar looking to my own hair, and I went shopping and bought her a ton of makeup too. Emptied the bank a little bit but it's better than shaving my head and not working for 5 years. I called Kat again and asked if it was okay for me to come round. She declined at first but Matthew spoke to her and she eventually agreed. I arrived wearing a bald cap, a few shades darker than my own skin, and Jessica found it hilarious. I spoke to her and told her that I was really upset that she had told Matthew that she hated me. She said sorry and told me that she was just jealous and upset. I told her about the photoshoot and she was incredibly excited, gave me a hug and wouldn't stop thanking me. We're going to have a makeover first and then we're going to have several pictures with Jessica wearing a wig, and several of us being bald because I want her to feel beautiful either way. It might be possible for me to share these photos with Reddit but I have a feeling they would go viral and I do not want my boyfriend or his family to be identified, particularly as a lot of people seem to think they're crazy and awful people. There are a lot of trolls online and I don't think the family could handle any kind of backlash. So I think it's kinda resolved for now. Jessica is happy, Matthew is happier, and Kat is at least accepting of the situation. I could have broken up with Matthew and walked away from this situation, and where would that gotten me? Jessica would still be upset, Kat would still be angry, and I wouldn't have my supportive, beautiful and amazing boyfriend in my life. I wouldn't stand for this again, but in the 3 amazing years of us being together, this is the only time he has faulted, and it was for an understandable reason. Also, people kept saying this is how Matthew and his family deal with tragedy. He'll do this again. But I don't think these people understand that this is not just a tragedy. There is not much that can compare to losing a young sweet daughter/sister to cancer. I've been with Matthew for 3 years, and in that 3 years we have dealt with tragedies. His good friend committed suicide, and stressful situations, he almost lost his job, and he has never acted like this before because this is more than a tragedy. This is heartbreak and hell. I want to finish with 2 quotes that I read on Reddit recently. Years of love have been forgot, in the hatred of a minute. And we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their behavior. Edit, I am absolutely blown away by the amount of support. Thank you so much to everybody that has made a kind comment, also everybody who has shared their own stories. I've been crying off and on all day. Happy tears mostly smile. Also there were a couple of slightly rude comments because I said that I didn't know how Matthew found my post. He doesn't Reddit, he barely even spends any time on his PC at all, and never mind. Not many people know about the ins and outs of the situation and I changed some small details to attempt to make it a bit less obvious. I'm terrified of being identified, so yeah it was kind of surprising that he found the thread. I haven't had a chance to ask him yet but I guess a friend must have sent it to him? Either way, it's not that important to me. Thanks again everybody, and let's pray that I can make another update soon saying Jessica has miraculously recovered. Smile update 2, thank you again for all the comments I got in my previous posts, they were all so helpful and kind. Myself and Matthew are completely back on track, he's been to therapy and is coping a lot better than he was before. Kat, his mom, is also going to group therapy and she seems to be a lot better. The photoshoot was a little difficult, Jessica wasn't all that compliant. She didn't seem to like my niece, who was nothing but friendly, and it took her some convincing to actually take some photos without the wig. She didn't want many pictures of us together, mostly just of herself. We didn't get the photos on the day, and Jess sent quite a rude text asking when I was going to get them to her. I took the photos to her about a week later and Kat asked if we could sit down and talk. She told me that she really appreciated what I'd done for Jess, but that Jess had been acting weirdly since. Apparently Jess had been trying to speak and dress like me, and was refusing to take the wig off, which was giving her a pretty bad rash on her scalp. Kat seemed quite annoyed that I'd gotten a wig similar to my own hair. That was a mistake on my part, but she kept hinting that it was a cheap wig or that it was made of synthetic hair, which kind of offended me. Anyway, I brushed it off and spoke to Jess. I told her that she didn't need to wear her wig all the time, that she didn't need hair or makeup to be beautiful, etc. But she got kind of rude and kept saying things like, "That's so easy for you to say, and you can lecture me when you have cancer." I ended up getting a little snippy with her, which I regret, and I told her that I didn't like her attitude, now or during the photo shoot. She ended up crying and Kat asked me to leave. She wasn't rude, but I could tell that she was upset with me. When I got home, Matthew reassured me that I hadn't been out of order or unfair. A few days later his mom called and told us that Jess had thrown away the bald photos. I was really upset, so Matthew spoke to Jess and told her that she was being very unappreciative and rude. I received a text from Jess a few hours later with what seemed like a sincere apology, to myself and to my niece. Then a few days later, I received another text from her asking if she could have another photo shoot. I called her and told her that I couldn't, as they wouldn't offer the same discount and I couldn't afford to pay for the whole thing myself, and she put the phone down on me. Then Kat called me and asked me, politely, but unfairly I feel, to no longer speak to Jess as it just keeps causing more trouble. So I haven't spoken to Jess or Kat since. Me and Matthew seem to be okay, but I'm worried that this may cause resentment between us later on in life, particularly if Jess gets any more unwell. I'm just taking everything as it comes and trying to stay out of it for now. I care a lot about Jess, but I also don't want to be taken advantage of, spoken to rudely, or blamed for problems that I couldn't help. I've tried my best with the whole family, but I can't seem to do much right, so I think it's for the best if I do distance myself from them. Sorry this wasn't a happier update. If anyone does have any suggestions for how I can avoid resentment between myself and Matthew in the future, or how I can try to fix the distance between myself and his family, I would be really thankful. I don't think there is anything more I can do, but there were a lot of really creative and helpful ideas in my last 2 posts, so it's worth asking. Smile. Thank you again everybody.